Let's take a look at some of our national and international headlines for this Thursday, June 29th, 2017. North Korea has called for the execution of former South Korean president. This is the woman who is now currently in jail awaiting trial on her own corruption charges. They say, North Korea, that she was involved in an assassination plot against their supreme leader, and therefore she has now been sentenced to death by them, of course. In Venezuela, a helicopter launched an attack on the Supreme Court. They're saying it was a rogue policeman who did this. He fired some shots, some 15 shots or so with an AK-47, and also dropped some grenades on the court building. Now, of course, this country is in a state of turmoil, not just politically, but also economically. And we're going to be watching what happens next. The UAE says that the Gulf states are now considering new sanctions against Qatar, basically saying we don't want them in our tent anymore. Mayors of some 7,400 cities around the world have vowed to meet Obama's climate commitments, the Paris Accords, and that includes in Alaska. Juneau is among them. We'll talk about that during our Alaska news today. The creator of Paddington Bear has died. Michael Bond was 91 years old. Do you remember the Hillsborough incident that happened way back in 1989? This is 28 years ago when some 96 people were killed in a stampede, a kind of a crush that happened with fans. And at the time, the police blamed the fans and said that it was because people who were unticketed trying to get onto the field. Now, this new jury has said, no, we actually think that the police and the emergency responders were at least partially to blame in the way in which they kept people from getting away from the stampede. So now some 6 people, including the match commander and the former police chief, are facing charges 28 years after the fact. They're saying that they're not going to have a final death toll for the Grenfell Tower disaster this year. As you recall, this happened just a couple of weeks ago when that tower caught on fire and burned, which, interestingly enough, even though the entire building burned, it didn't come falling down. We'll talk about that some other time. Hamas has created a no-go security zone along their border with Egypt, saying that Egypt's security is the Palestinian security. The EU commissioner has warned that Brexit is going to blow a hole in their budget, probably because they've been relying on Britain to finance an awful lot of stuff for the EU. The Russians say that the United States claim that they're going to start exporting natural gas worldwide is a bluff. The United States simply uses too much energy. We have been a net importer since the 1950s, and they don't see anything that's going to change that. Also, Trump in the news. He turned on Amazon chief Jeff Bezos, calling his Washington Post fake news, also claiming his company is dodging retail sales taxes, which is incidentally not true. Donald Trump is also considering sanctions against China over the North Korea stuff, and he's also come under fire for having these Time magazine covers. You may have seen the pictures of them on social media. It's got a 2009 date, and it shows Trump, on top of the world with his whole arms crossed thing. That'll be my subject of commentary today. Make sure you check that out. I've got a special correspondent at his phone in all the way from the Soviet Union to talk about that. And if you want to send me an email, I'd love to hear from you, Steve at radiofreespeech.com.